Good morning, everyone. Have you ever tried to share the Torah with people and they say, well, you need to read Acts 15 because I'm a Gentile convert? You know, I took it seriously and I read Acts 15. But here's the problem. They're missing something. Anyone that tries to use Acts 15 to argue that they don't have to keep all the Torah is a liar. Because those same people will go back and use James, that if you fail to keep one, you fail to keep them all. And they'll claim that they're not trying to keep any of the Torah. But the problem is right here in Acts 15, it literally tells the apostles to teach the Gentile converts, Gentiles who converted. Now, this is the Catholic version. I used the Catholic version because I wanted you to see that the biggest idolaters in the world have this in their Bibles, yet they don't follow it. I mean, folks, if you aren't willing to read and follow the Bible, then what good is it to even be in religion? It becomes just a giant party that people come to celebrate each other. But right here it says, we're converted, right, to Yahuah from among the Gentiles, are not to be disturbed, but instead that we write to them that they should keep themselves from what? Defilement of idols, worshiping idols, from fornication. That's not just sexual in nature. Fornication is also spiritual, a spiritual adultery, okay? In other words, other gods being allowed into your life. Syncretism, look it up, it's a cool word. And from whatever has been suffocated, in other words, taking an animal's life without cutting its throat so that the blood comes out while the heart is still beating, right? And from drinking blood or using blood in general. Now, here's the thing. Every single Christian that says they followed the Messiah breaks these. They do. They break these commandments. These commandments that they claim is all they have to do. They actually don't keep any of them. They don't keep any of them. They have idols. They wear a cross around their neck. The scriptures say that cursed is the man who hangs upon a tree, indicating the stake, or what Christians call the cross. Now the problem is they take that item and they do what with it? They hang it around their neck. They're literally cursing themselves. The cross is not your salvation. The cross is an idol made by man's hands that you then hang around your neck. Anyways, so they break that one. What's another one? From fornication. Fornication is not just sexual in nature, it's also spiritual. You can read that in the book of Hosea and all the other prophets. When you adulterate yourself or fornicate, it's with other Elohim, other gods. So here's the deal. Christianity is full of all kinds of blending of religions. Trinity. The Trinity is from Hinduism. The unholy Trinity. So it's also from Egypt. They have the unholy Trinity. We could go back all through the story of Nimrod and his wife and his son Tammuz. That's an unholy Trinity. In other words, the Trinity is all based in heathenism and paganism. Not heathenism, but paganism. We're worshiping of other gods. So they break that one. Well, what about whatever is suffocated or strangled? So whatever is strangled in blood, they go together, because What happens when you strangle an animal? It dies with its blood still in its meat. And then you consume that meat. You consume the congealed blood within the meat. They go together. Where do these come from, though? Where do they come from? They come from Leviticus. They come out of the Torah, the very book that they say they don't have to follow. Now, does that make any sense? And I'm saying this because I love these people. They're my family. They're my brother. I don't have any brothers, but they're my sisters. It's my mother. It's my father. It's my friends that I went to high school with. They claim that in their Christianity, this is all they have to do, but they don't do any of it. In reality, they don't. If they were to closely examine themselves according to the truth, according to the Torah. And how can I say that? Because Nathan, I broke all these while I was in Christianity. It's true. Oh, I know what you're thinking. I don't drink blood. You don't. Do not the Christians themselves teach and preach that the wine they drink on their communion literally turns to blood? They do, if you go back and look. But it doesn't end there, does it? Did you know the Egyptians had a practice of taking the blood from infants and putting it in their wounds to heal themselves? And I know you're thinking, you're like, oh no, that's terrible. But did you know that in 2025, that's what people do? They take the blood of infants and they put it in their wounds. They put it on their faces to keep their skin looking good. They inject it in themselves. It's called vaccines. Yeah, it all uses the blood of infants. The majority of vaccines have some sort of cells from infants to try to preserve your life. Guys, Christianity was in cahoots with the government to sell you vaccines. They didn't teach you to stand against the government because they can't. Their 501(c) limits their ability to speak against politicians and government. And so therefore, they closed down their doors during the COVID pandemic thing. And then they encouraged people to get vaccines. I was there. I was in the churches then. I was studying to be a Christian pastor during that period. But then I saw the hypocrisy. I saw the lies. And I started reading the Word for the purpose of learning it, not for the purpose of proving Christianity, for the purpose of doing the Word in my heart, and it changed everything. So let me show you something. Are these the only things that a Gentile Christian is supposed to do? Nope. Remember, the Messiah said that if you teach man to break even the least of these or lessen, it makes you cursed from the council of the Shemaim. The Messiah taught us to keep all of the Torah that apply to us, of course. So, what is this? Well, let me show you what 100% of Christians skip. For Moshe, from ancient times, has had in each city those who preach him in the synagogues. Who? Moshe, where he is read on every Sabbath. Now, friends, this is the Catholic version. This is the king of the Catholic Christians, which all Christians are Catholic. They all follow the same Sabbath. They all follow the same laws and doctrine. Some of them just have less idols than others. All right? But they're all Catholic. Catholic just means universal. And so every Sabbath, now here's the Catholic Christian version pointing us to keep the Sabbath. Why should we go to the synagogue on the Sabbath? To learn the words of Moshe from ancient times, because he's still preached in these synagogues. Why? Why would they in the Council of Jerusalem, tell people that they're going to go to the synagogues on the Sabbath to hear the words of Moshe. Because this isn't where it stops. This is where it begins. And then as you hear the words of the Torah on the Sabbath, you learn how to truly please Yahuah. That's the point. The point of the words of Moshe is to learn how to love Yahuah. Because it was Yahuah that breathed those words of the Torah. It was just Moshe was the intercessor. He was just the one that brought these words. But at one point, Yahuah spoke directly to the multitude of people, and they heard his voice. How can you deny the Torah? How can you deny that this stuff isn't in the Torah? Because it's in the Torah. So how can you deny that this is in the Torah? You can't. If you're going to be following these because you converted, it means you also have to do this. Learn the words of Moshe in the synagogue on the Sabbath. I know what you're thinking. I'm in America. There is no synagogues, but there is. Wherever Yahushua's name is, he is there also. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name, he is among them. That is his tabernacle. That is his synagogue. And what should be being taught in there? The Torah, the words of Moshe. Do you believe it? Or are you going to be one of those that blot out verse 21 and lie to yourself and say you keep these? Anything made with human hands is an idol, that if you put hope in it, in other words, for the purpose of spirituality, the cross, the church itself, the steeple on top of a church, it's all idols. The communion that isn't part of Passover, that they do every month, is an idol in people's hearts. I hope you see the truth, friends, and I hope you turn away from the lie and follow the true Messiah, Yahushua HaMashiach, that leads us to the Father, Yahuah. Because just like the prophet Isaiah's name, it's Yesha Yahu. It means salvation is Yahuah. There is no other. Shalom.